Hey guys, welcome back. Last week, in part 1 of this series, we briefly explored some of the general personality traits and basic motivations which contribute to conspiracy thinking. In this video, we will take a look at the dynamics of conspiracy groups as a whole. So the next question that comes to mind is the group just a collection of individuals, or does it tend to become more than the sum of its parts? The answer is a resounding yes and no. No, the individuals within the group do retain their individual personal identities and motivations. Yes, the group at times can become more than the sum of its parts, particularly when a leader is present to direct group actions. When we use the term collective narcissism, we are not saying that the individual members are diagnosable as narcissists. True narcissists are a very small minority within the general population. What we mean by collective narcissism is that the group will take on narcissistic traits, and sometimes an individual will take on those traits on behalf of the group. I should pause here a moment to mention, there is currently a discussion amongst psychological colleagues comparing and contrasting collective narcissism and in-group satisfaction. While there is some overlap, there are many differences. In-group satisfaction, in general, relates to positive motivations and outcomes within a group, while collective narcissism generally lacks positive motivations and focuses more on negative motivations and outcomes. We may explore this in a later video. Collective narcissism arises out of the same basic motivations seen in Part 1, epistemic, existential, and social, reinforced by the emotional self-protection defense mechanisms of denial, projection, and the creation of the other. Each of these defense mechanisms can be seen daily on social media, including YouTube, as conspiracy theorists attempt to explain away mountains of evidence which contradicts their belief in whichever conspiracy they subscribe to. Denial in this case can be seen in what has become known in the flat earth debates as the nuh-uh argument. Using this argument, the conspiracy theorist simply states that the contradictory evidence is fake without giving any evidence to support that claim. Projection is also seen regularly on social media, usually in the form of the "I know you are, but what am I" argument. This argument attempts to pass off the failings of education and critical thinking skills as the fault of the conspiracy debunkers rather than the failings of the conspiracy theorist. This allows the conspiracy theorist to avoid the uncomfortable consequences of self-reflection and evaluation of their cherished beliefs. The creation of the other typically arises from the need to safeguard a cherished belief system. Rather than skeptically evaluating the evidence, a conspiracy theorist will accuse the conspiracy debunker of being a paid member of the opposition, again without evidence to support any such claim. Now, how does all this relate to collective narcissism? The shared basic personality traits, motivations, and defense mechanisms come together within a group to form what I call a cult of concept, where the cherished idea becomes more important than any other motivation. This transforms the group from individuals to a collective whole, in which narcissistic traits arise to protect the ideas and ideology of its members. Leaders are much less important than the idea, which separates cult of personality from cult of concept. Leaders will come and go, but it's the idea that is the primary source of identity within conspiracy groups. In order to protect that identity provided by the cherished belief, group members will exhibit the following traits, either as part of the group collective or individually on behalf of the group. The first narcissistic personality trait that we see in action on a regular basis within conspiracy groups is always talking about self. We as human beings all have the need to be heard and understood. Occasionally, we will all talk about ourselves. However, some exhibiting this trait will talk about themselves or their ideas almost to the exclusion of all else. A narcissist will always attempt to steer a conversation away from any topic that doesn't include themselves. This can be seen on social media where conspiracy theory groups or individuals speak about their ideas at the exclusion of other topics. A practice taking shape within the last few months is known as flat smacking. Or a flat earth proponent will harass passerbys in public about flat earth ideas, usually in the form of questioning the passerby's education and understanding of science. When faced with opposition in these interactions, the conspiracy theorist will usually double down on their statements, attacking passerby's intelligence, education, or simply stating, "do your research," which is nothing more than a blatant attempt to avoid showing any evidence of their own for their own ideas. Another personality trait that can be seen regularly is fantasizing about success, power, and their own brilliance. Most people will occasionally wish for more success or the ability to undo past mistakes. Yet a person exhibiting this narcissistic trait isn't just casually wishing or revisiting a past regret. To a narcissistic individual, this fantasy is an actual reality. This trait has been observed often in conspiracy theorists online in the form of comments such as, "when the truth comes out, fill in the blank. NASA will be indicted. We are in the majority." These are only 3 short examples of these type of statements. You can definitely find more on a daily basis. And all of these statements speak to the group need for social and political power, and are usually framed in such a way as to imply they already have that power, yet they are simply biding their time. Another trait often seen is grandiosity. This is defined as a grandiose delusion of self-importance, which is related to the previous trait, yet it is separate due to the focus of the thought. This isn't simple self-esteem. This is a fully realized belief that I, and only I, have the answers, and that I, and only I, can set things right and make people see the truth. This trait is easily seen in conspiracy groups on a regular basis, whether it be unusual interpretations of the Bible, or the belief that they are the holders of special knowledge, or that they are the chosen ones to lead the rest of us into a new and better era. This trait can be seen in just about every conspiracy video on the internet, from aliens to Area 51 to Flat Earth to moon landing deniers, and any other conspiracy you care to name. Fourth on this list is a requirement for constant praise and approval. While we all like a bit of praise, conspiracy groups crave it relentlessly. Have you ever noticed the comment sections on their videos? Most, if not all, the comments which are allowed on their channels are very positive in nature, whether it be toward the conspiracy idea or the content creator. Most of the time, it is very rare to see critical posts in these comment sections. When not receiving the required praise, it is not unusual for conspiracy theorists to lash out in anger. This can be seen regularly on conspiracy debunking channels' comment sections. The conspiracy theorist will leave argumentative comments, usually with demands that the debunking content creator engage in arguments. If that demand isn't met, the conspiracy theorist will use vitriolic ad hom attacks in an attempt to force a confrontation in an effort to prove themselves superior. This need for constant praise and approval is also intermixed with our next narcissistic trait, which is a sense of entitlement. A conspiracy theorist truly believes that they are entitled to be heard. They will use the First Amendment as a bludgeon to get you to listen to them, not realizing that the flip side of the coin of the First Amendment is that we have the right to criticize. They will even go so far as to demand that their demands must be met, and will even occasionally sometimes offer threats if their demands are not met. Again, this can be seen almost daily on social media, whether it is in the conspiracy theorist videos or in the skeptic community debunking comment sections. In fact, part 1 of this series received just such an exchange, where the conspiracy theorist posted 23 separate comment threads in an attempt to force a confrontation and became extremely angry when I refused to comply with his demands. This is by no means an exhaustive list of narcissistic personality traits. As I've stated previously, this is meant to be a brief overview. I encourage anyone interested in this topic to contact me for further discussion, or do a little light reading on your own. It's a fascinating study, at least to me. Well, guys, thanks for joining me this week. And if you made it this far and you're enjoying this series or the rest of my content, I encourage you to hit the like and subscribe buttons. Part 3 of this series will most likely be in 2 weeks rather than next week, as I have other commitments I must attend to. Until then, gang, thanks for stopping by. I'll see you around the campfire.